the meeting minutes from November 23rd. Any comments or clarifications or anything?
They look good to me.
I thought so too. Anybody else?
Yeah, they look great.
All right. May I have a motion to accept the meetings from November?
I so move.
All right. Christian and somebody else?
Kara, I'll second.
Oh, Kara. Okay. Any objections to approving the meeting minutes?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll call it a unanimous vote here. Christian, did you have something to comment on? You raised your hand.
Yeah, I have a comment on the agenda. I'm on the agenda with a report on the DEC CAC presentation, and it happens. I'm only available until about 10 minutes after 7. It's Lee's birthday, and I'm taking her out to dinner. So if I could be fitted in early, I could make that report.
Of course, of course. Well, now that you've mentioned it, why don't you lead off altogether?
Okay. So the CAC presentation is an annual presentation by the DEC through their that group. It was terrific. I had no idea what to expect. It was over 3 hours long. I was expecting a typical hour Zoom. It was packed full of information and good reporting and a lot of really good resources. I'll try to give some highlights that pertain to us. There was, of course, reporting on the bag waste reduction work, a lot of interesting detail that I couldn't write fast enough about reusable bag laws, etc. On the one that especially is of interest to us also is the food donation and food scrap recycling law that we've heard about. I made a note that in regard to action in Columbia, can't remember, this is starting in 2022 to actually be a requirement. And of course, we have a number of companies in the county that would come under this mandate, the supermarkets for the most part. But for it to, they will be required to do things like donate to usable food to people. The next level is edible food to livestock, pigs, etc. And the other, though, is composting, which we know is important, but they're only required if there is an organics recycler within 25 miles of their location. I think it's a possible action item to have in mind to drive something actually happening here, looking into what that would mean. Their New York State Food Donation Working Group is a go-to place for that question. There is a DEC website. I could send that out in an email, since I see this doesn't. I don't see a chat function like there is on Zoom to be able to type these things in. So that material was an interesting update, more thorough than I can share here. Another one of interest was reporting on the local solid waste management planning, which is the process we're involved in the county right now. We've heard some about that. I know Larry Waite is one person who's been doing a lot of follow-up on that. He's been reporting to the Zero Waste Columbia group.
We're completely off the agenda.
What?
I'm sorry, but we're completely off the agenda. I'm trying to track this meeting.
This
with
is
the
on the agenda. It's toward the end of the agenda, but it's on the copy that I received. Whether you understand it or not, I can assure you that it is.
It's number J, or letter J.
Thank you.
Okay, so we still have A through J to go.
Were you here when I asked at the very beginning if I could be moved to the beginnings because I have to leave and I'm on the agenda? Were you aware of that, or were you asleep?
Now, Christian and Rick,
I was neither.
let's,
I was neither.
yeah, well, in any
So
case,
Michael asked me to go ahead and present, and I believe he's running the meeting.
Very
okay,
good.
well, let's,
Okay,
That's all
guys,
fine.
take it easy.
let's, yeah. So Christian, just to be clear, this is the annual meeting of the State Association of CACs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and CAC is what, John?
Well, the Conservation Advisory Councils,
Right.
but as a
Councils.
in their organizational framework, they put EMCs together with this.
That's
so
right.
It's essentially the same thing at a different level.
That's right, and we are invited to their meetings, which is why I got this.
Yep.
So there were
Good
some
bunch.
important notes on the process of that solid waste. It had been seemed that there was no further access to that process in the earlier timing, but the pandemic, et cetera, has slowed things down. We're still in the process. I'll be sending a note to Larry Wade about that, but I think it's important to understand that that is still very much in process, and there will be a public hearing where we can try to have input to that. That's been asked, has come up a number of times in our meetings. The most exciting thing, and to keep things short, I think that I'll leave it at this particular one, but there is an extraordinary new initiative well along the way in the state called the DEC Information Locator. And unfortunately, it was a terrific presentation. Unfortunately, I find that as I tried to, before the meeting, find it online, I wasn't able to. I was able to get to the section that it's under at the DEC, et cetera, but it seems that it may require the ArcGIS software on one's computer in order to use it. The county, it'd be interesting to find out whether it can be done through the county, because they have theirs done in a way that you don't have to have that software. But here's the basic picture. And this, I'm reminded of the time that I was attending hearings at Lafarge Cement about their tire burning plans, and went to a number of hearings. At one point, somebody sitting in front of the audience who was with the company actually turned around to me and said, you know, the people to talk to for information are the engineers. You go to these hearings and all you hear from is management, and they are skewing everything and blocking information, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the information locator is done by engineers, and they have a very broad mandate from the state government about information access. And what they've done is to put this onto a GIS map of the state so that you can access information about sites that have to do, for instance, with pollution, any of the sites that come under the DEC with any permit. Any DEC permitted site is accessible through this map. And the thing of it is that you go to the location, and you can do that either by address or simply by knowing where it is and going visually to find it. And then you've got a series of drop downs. You click on those, and it is a list of every permit and every report on every permit. So we've got this thing going on in our town. where there's a new brownfield site, and there's some various considerations about that, and it's been hard to get at information for that. This would give us access to that. The man showed some examples, and it was just really surprising because this is the kind of thing that you can spend weeks or months trying to track down in the normal course of events, because there's no concentrated index that relates to a particular site. So I think that is one of the most exciting pieces of information that came out of it. There are 60 layers of information. Anything that the DEC is involved with in any way, I only mentioned the pollution aspects, but there's an outdoor activity layer. It'd be something worth exploring in the future. And I think I noted that, so off of that, one of the things that they mentioned in their purview is this is a different topic in the earlier topics, not the information access, but a forest health diagnostics lab, which I can send a note out to anybody who has any wooded property. It seemed like there were some very good assets available there. Another thing that surprised me to hear about was that there was some report on invasive species. Kudzu is in Long Island, carried over by the storm, but giant hogweed is in several places in the state, not around us. I showed a picture of one of these things as tall as a man and with a giant leaf. So there's some invasive reporting, invasives, and I think to keep things short, I'll end it with that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Christian. That sounds like a very powerful tool. I remember doing work in coordination with the opposition to the St. Lawrence cement plant, and the difficulty of getting records together in one place and permits and so forth was very time consuming.
And you know what's even more important on this one is the current condition of DEC offices. A friend of mine who was looking for records, I've mentioned this before, but this was just a couple of years ago. He went to a DEC office to retrieve records, and the secretary told him, there's the room where they are, and we have open access. You're welcome to go look. But we have lost staff, and we don't have anybody to manage our records. They're turned in by the inspectors, and then they're just put in this room. So this is some cataloging, because all of those things have to also be digitized somewhere. So, yeah, it's hopeful.
All right. Well, thank you. Okay. How about the Climate Smart County subcommittee? David, would you like to say a word about that, if you might? I mean, you and I were both in the meeting.
Thanks very much.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're on.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, thanks, everyone. I'll be brief. We had a meeting of, I should have checked the dates before this, but I believe it was after our last meeting that we had a meeting of the working group. So there is a group of 4 or 5 of us EMC members and 4 or 5 supervisors. And we have met a couple times to discuss how to set this program up now that the county has passed the resolution. So we uploaded the resolution into the website. We're officially registered as a county. We're not certified. That requires passing a bunch of actions and qualifying either as bronze or silver. And so we right now are just simply registered, Most of the towns, if not all of the towns in Columbia County, are not yet certified. They haven't passed the bronze level. The grant program that is out there right now, providing $8,000 grants from Lifeboats HV to towns, is intended to help these towns become bronze. And to do that, you have to pass a number of actions, and there are many actions that you can choose from. That's how it works. Before we get into which actions the county will endeavor to pursue, we need to develop a that will take this on a permanent basis. Please mute if you could. I'm getting a little feedback. Thank you. And that was the subject of our meeting in December. And we discussed let me just pull up the list here of the composition of this task force. The working group doesn't envision itself carrying this work forward other than establishing the framework for it to carry forward. So we thought in our discussions, we're thinking 3 to 4 supervisors, 3 to 4 EMC members, someone representing planning, transportation, energy, solid waste, agriculture, conservation, economic development, CDC, or Chamber of Commerce, the health department, emergency management, and some university presence, Cornell or Columbia Green or both. That seemed like a well-rounded list of areas of expertise that we'd like to see represented. And so the supervisors have, Ron Knott was taking this back to the board of supervisors, and he said he would communicate this to them and develop a list of candidates to ultimately be appointed. I pinged Ron a couple days ago, but of course the holidays, people aren't really online. So I haven't gotten an update on how that's going, but hopefully we will soon. So one thing for us to consider, and this hopefully would come in front of the Board of Supervisors in February. And so we're hoping that we can get a list of people who are willing and able and capable of serving, and we can bring this to the Board of Supervisors to formally establish this task force. So one thing that we will need to consider now perhaps, but more importantly in our January meeting, is who from the EMC would like to represent the EMC or like to serve. And I don't think it's really all that important that we have a lot of EMC members, not to disrespect anyone on this and this group. It's more important that we have the areas of expertise covered. And if that can be accomplished through people on this committee or this council, that would be great too. So that's kind of where we're at. There is the other issue of this. In order to move forward, we'll have a group of volunteers essentially on the task force, and we all know how busy we are in getting substantive work done in these volunteer capacities. So we envision the need to hire a supervisor or a coordinator rather to kind of oversee the work. And to do that, we'll have to raise funds because the county doesn't have funds to hire someone in this position right now. And so we're exploring different funding opportunities and different potential partners who could house this or be a home for such a supervisor or such a coordinator if and when we raise the money to hire someone. There's a NYSERDA program that has some funds available, and there's also some interest from some private foundations and supporters. So I think we'll be able to raise some of that money initially, but we'll have to decide where this person resides. And so the idea, a few different organizations come to mind and were discussed: the CEDC, the CLC, potentially Columbia Green, although we haven't spoken with anyone there. So we have no idea. I reached out and haven't heard back yet, and possibly Cornell, and also haven't heard back from them. So that's kind of where we're at, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments, suggestions back to this group.
It was never clear to me whether the director or whatever coordinator has to be a county employee. That seemed to be a question that was still up in the air. Do you have any more clarification on that?
I think it would. There's no need for them to be. The CSC, the state doesn't require them to be an employee of the municipality that has joined. So there's no requirement there. My sense is it would be easier for the county not to have to hire someone.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're laying people. Well, they may not be laying people off. My understanding is they're cutting hours and budgets are incredibly tight. It would be very awkward for a private grant to come in to hire a new position when other people are being laid off or being cut back. So I think it would be better and easier administratively to have someone seconded to another organization. I think there are options there, certainly.
Have you spoken to any of these organizations? Have you spoken to CLC or anything like that?
Yeah, I spoke briefly to CLC. There's definitely interest there and openness to the idea. So it's not a novel idea for an organization like that to do something like this. To not really have a person who's being sponsored at that organization. You have to pay a slight administrative fee to the organization to cover just general expenses and overhead, but it's not that significant, and you'd have to pay that in any case. So,
Okay.
David,
yeah,
I think it's worthwhile seeing if the Columbia County Economic Development Corporation would be interested in hosting this position, because I think there's a very strong strategic advantage to associating climate change responsibility with economic development.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful point, and certainly would work well with the politics of the county. Probably, I'm guessing, and the composition of the political makeup of the Board of Supervisors. I think it would alleviate any kind of concern folks that may be a little just not fully on board with this, or have some questions about what where this might lead the county. So I think that I haven't spoken with Mike Turner. That's the person. I've spoken with him once prior to this. We asked if they could endorse the idea of the county joining the program, and they said that they're, as a kind of a county body, they're authorized to do work on behalf of the county when the Board of Supervisors ask them, but they're not an independent advocacy organization where they can actually advocate in favor of something like that. So they weren't able to step in and do that, but they certainly seem supportive of the initiative. And like you said, so many of these projects and actions are to the economic benefit of the county. And in fact, last week, I'll send these two articles. There were two articles in the Wall Street Journal about farming and carbon farming on mainstream kind of conventional farms, and how bigger farms than we have around here, where they have thousands of acres. But by integrating things as simple as cover cropping, they're able to qualify for carbon credits and get paid. There are numbers like a farm will lose between $10 or make $170 on soybeans. A farm will make, on average, last year between $50 and $150 or $200 on corn per acre. And so, if you introduce another $5 or $10 in a carbon credit to put a cover crop on a field that would otherwise be left open, that's significant when it's covering thousands of acres. So I'll send those articles around to everyone. They're interesting. But that's the kind of thing that we need to get across here. This is not some kind of esoteric exercise in environmentalism. This is really mainstream and dollars and cents. So I think you're right. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I think you're right. We should for that.
Hey, David. I think you and I spoke briefly about it, but if through Lifeboat, should some CSCs in Columbia County receive that grant, whoever is chosen to receive the grant will have a coordinator that's been approved, right, by the CSC, and that person is going to go through some pretty intensive training. So I wonder if there's maybe funding available through Lifeboat for somebody that was hired by the EMC for the county, not by the EMC, but by the county for our Climate Smart Committee.
Yeah, I spoke with them, with the Lifeboats folks, and they don't have a budget for this year to support something at the county level, but they're open to it for the future. And I think those grants come through the New World Foundation and perhaps other sources. I'm not quite sure, but they're sponsored. Lifeboats is an organization. It's not its own 501c3. It's sponsored by the New World Foundation. It's a project of or fiscally sponsored. Anyway, they don't have anything allocated for this year for the county, and we'll do as much as we can given the restraints that we have. But I think your point is good, because there'll be potentially a cohort, or at least a handful, one or two people maybe, who will go through a 6-month position, which is what those are.
Right.
And 6 months is not that far off, be looking for their next thing. And maybe that's that'd be a great group to think about recruiting from for the county for that training. So that this could come together that way. We're going to have to look at all options and try to bring money to the table. But I really like that idea about certainly working with them and aligning ourselves and seeing what comes out of that to support the county effort.
Right.
Yeah. So David, we need good communication on this, because I know Chatham, their Climate Smart Committee is thinking of going after this grant as well.
And Ghent, I know, is, I don't know where it's at. Most recently. Do folks know of other towns that are?
Austerlitz has
Yeah,
applied.
New Lebanon's applied, but I'm not sure. We're pretty close to bronze already, so I'm not sure if it's going to work.
Well, an easy win maybe. So any other?
Yeah.
Yes, Germantown.
Okay, great. So yeah, I think it's highly likely we're going to get some of them in Columbia County, which is great. And this could really be a great table setting for what comes next at the county level. So, any other thoughts or questions? Please
Yes.
feel free to contact me anytime. But yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, David. I do have a thought. This last conversation led me to think about the fact that maybe this committee, which I'm hoping to continue to be a member of, will convene all the climate smart community towns, villages, other entities in the county for some sort of get together, a giant 24 square by square, square by square Zoom session or something.
Yeah.
I think there's value in everybody knowing that everybody else is out there doing this, and that there's potentially an umbrella group through the county.
Yeah, I think there's two roles, at least, the county playing, both county-wide, looking at county municipal buildings, county actions that are directly related to the county. But, one of the things, you look at the actions, LED lighting. The county doesn't have that many lights. They're mainly town lights. And so inevitably, and the county is not a strong, large governmental body, it's designed that way. So inevitably, we'll need to be working through the towns, and if we can create a community, if we can help to bring together, we don't create, the community is already there and they're already coordinating and talking. If we can help facilitate more of that, I think we'll see a lot of benefits.
Dean Vanderland from CLC has spearheaded getting CACs together. And 2 years ago, we did get CACs and CFCs together, and it was a great showing. A lot of people attended. I think there were 70 people attended, and it was a great sharing of information, knowledge, what's worked, what hasn't worked. So Unfortunately, because of COVID, it was
Yeah.
postponed and then, scrapped this year, but
Yeah.
definitely a great idea. Getting
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it's
Definitely.
a good model, right?
Yeah.
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 Yes, we
Yeah.
can
I think we
certainly
were
do
supposed
that
to do it in
again.
October, but we didn't, obviously. So.
Mm-hmm.
Christian,
Great.
did you want to ask a question or make a comment? You have your hand up?
No, I think
Sorry,
that's left
I did
over.
not intend to have my hand up.
Okay.
I except to say goodbye. Thanks. I'm off to dinner. Bye-bye.
Have a good time.
Enjoy.
Bye.
So,
All right,
that's
David,
where
are there any?
I don't know if there's anything else, Michael.
Are there any actions that we need to take
Yeah.
in regards to your situation?
They're none at this time. I mean,
I wonder. The
Yeah,
only
go
thing
ahead.
I was wondering is if people are interested. It doesn't hurt to start that process. If people know they're interested, put in a mechanism, whether it's email to everybody else, or I don't know what the mechanism should be if people.
Well, we can certainly vote on it if we have more than, I don't know if it'll be 3 people or 4 people, but if there's more interest than there are seats or spots, we should have a formal process of voting on it.
Yeah.
To be fair about it. So
Yeah.
people can send me their if they're interested, and I will organize that for the January meeting.
That's
Thank
a
you.
good idea.
It's a good
Great.
idea.
So
We can bring
David,
that
I'm
forward.
gonna suggest, I'll send you an email on this. Sorry. I'm gonna suggest the first step is to create a list serve of all
Yes.
climate smart communities in the county.
Yep. Easy enough to do.
Well, as we form the subcommittee, the spearheading group, it would be probably beneficial for us all to think through what David read off, and if we know somebody that might be interested in volunteering for this committee, subcommittee, whatever we're going to call it, task force, that through word of mouth, we all know people in our local municipalities that could be a great fit. So take this next month to put the word out. If you know somebody that's in transportation with the county or in the health department or whichever, and if you need that list of potential members, that we can send that back out. But
Yeah, that's a
word
good
out.
point. I'll follow up after this. I'll send that list. I'll send some information on what this task force does, what they're, just so you have that for anyone that hasn't seen that, and ask for a response if you're personally interested in serving on behalf of the EMC. If you know anyone that would be good for this task force that fits any of these areas, that would be great. And then we'll put together a listserv of certainly of the CSC committees that are out there. We have very little to share with them at this point, other than just to kind of let them know we're working on this, which I think would be a valuable thing in and of itself.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you, David. Any news from Zero Waste Columbia?
We don't really have any news other than we had a brief meeting this past week and are kind of mapping out our calendar for next year. So we have a meeting middle of January, and so likely have more to report after that at our next meeting.
Very good. Thank you. We have on the agenda solar installations in the pipeline. Is that something you've got your ear to the ground about, Kara?
I think Ed had that on there because of the COPAIC. Was
Right.
it in reference to that? There's a lot of developers scrambling to get their solar panels in the ground. So,
Of course.
we'll likely be seeing more. There's NYSEG seems to have some holdups with development right now. So investors and developers are kind of holding off on completing their installations or even getting projects off the ground in NYSEG because of the value of distributed energy resources, the meter rate. But other than that, there's hundreds of developers, so I don't firsthand know of all of the backroom conversations at my fingertips. Sorry.
No, of course not. Well, thank
I was
you.
just wondering, are there any towns involved in this? I don't even know exactly how to phrase the question. Someone sent me a article today about places in Maine where the municipality is involved in the community solar. Does anyone know of anything like?
There is Red Hook. The village of Red Hook is actually a prime example of a municipality that owned 10 acres of property. It took them 3 years in the planning stages of this project, and then they put out for bid to developers to create a PPA, which is a power purchase agreement, where that entity would own it would be a community solar project. So it would be for subscription, but the asset owner, the developer, owned the project. I think it's for the first 10 years. And so after 10, I could be wrong on the number of years, but I think the developer owns the project for 10 years. And after 10 years, at a depreciated rate, sells that project back to the municipality. So Red Hook is thinking that they would then try to purchase it. And the subscriptions to the project were a first come, first served basis, prioritizing residents of Red Hook initially. And I think they got 200 residents to sign up, and then any extra subscriptions would be open to Central Hudson customers. So I don't know what kind of retention rate they have or anything like that, but I know people down in Red Hook that worked on this, if you'd like more information.
But so there's nothing like that going on in the county.
No, there isn't. No.
Yeah. Okay.
It's an unusual concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And the municipality is the landlord
Right.
at a minimum.
Yeah.
So if a given municipality has a piece of property that the town owns, any of them could evaluate the usability of those properties and say, well, what can we do with this? And maybe solar is one thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
There is a lot of creative financing that's available. So when you come up against a wall, there's sometimes a way around it.
Yeah, could be a money earner for the right municipality.
Right.
Expanded polystyrene pending regulation. Has anybody been following that closely?
No,
Okay.
but I heard Cuomo signed a bill today about glyphosate.
Oh, okay, that's a different topic,
Yeah.
but certainly
polystyrene.
also important. But I know that the expanded polystyrene had been in the works in the New York State Senate and Assembly for many months now. When we in this committee we're trying to work out some way to deal with it at the county level, that was always kind of hanging overhead, that at some point the state was going to take on something that would probably work better at a broader level. So Citizens Climate Lobby news. The CCL is, I guess since we last met here, we had our fall lobby meeting, and I'm blanking on the number, but we met among other representatives. We met with several hundred members of the House and Senate, virtually, of course, including Antonio Delgado, who is quite supportive of action on the environment, and certainly good to have on our side here locally. But in general, the action proceeds. That they are looking to jump right in January, especially with the new administration. And one way or another, from the Senate point of view, if the two seats that are open in Georgia get decided for the Democrats, then that's one way, and if they don't, then that's another way. But from the climate lobbying point of view, the work goes on one way or another, because our feeling is that any law about a carbon fee and dividend is going to have to be a bipartisan one to make it less vulnerable to being overturned by the next administration. So that's a little report there. Natural resource training. I think Terry would have been the one to make a note about that. Anybody else have any information about that? I think that's, we'll let her get back to us about this. Media reports.
Michael, I just did read something on DEC's website about an effective date for polystyrene ban of January 2022.
Oh, wonderful. So
forward.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that apparently, I have been asleep at the switch here. That apparently has been passed by the Assembly and Senate then.
It looks like it. Yeah. I'll send this out to everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you. County Health Department have.
I have a couple of items on the environmental front. The Allied Health voluntary brownfield cleanup plan is somewhat moving forward. I received a letter from, I think it was DEC, to the State Health Department, who reviewed the community involvement plan, I think it was called. I guess there were no community, people that had a comment on it, and the State Health Department, it took a long time to review that, but they came back with one comment, which was basically to add the site designation to the front cover of the report. So there really wasn't anything that they objected to with what's being proposed there. And there is a 145-page proposal how they want to mitigate the contamination there and clean that up. It's CT Mall is the engineering firm that's working on it. So I just wanted to let you know that I am in that loop. I am receiving any updates, copies of it anyway. They haven't asked us for any direct involvement at this point, but there are, our eyes are on that locally, so we can kind of monitor what's happening there. And also the Prairieville project that I know someone had come from an organization that was looking to stop that from going forward a while back, and someone had come to our meeting about it. That project was approved by the planning board, and the cleanup of that site is being overseen by DEC. And that development of that site is moving forward now. A well has been drilled on the property, and in conversations with DEC and the State Health Department, the DEC project manager doesn't believe that they have any evidence to suggest any contamination has migrated off of that site. So at this point in time, they're not recommending that any, sampling beyond the perimeters of that property be conducted. So, but we're also in that loop. So, if anything changes with that, we'll hear about it. And also we'll be regulatory authority for that well, that's going to serve that property, and they'll have to do a full Part 5 public water supply, scan. So if there's anything that comes up in that well, that would be a red flag that we need to advocate for something, beyond that. But so those are the two local projects. And then the PFAS and PFOA chemical regulations that have gone into effect are still on track. Some of the samples, like the first phase, are going to be coming due like in February. So we've been getting some guidance from the state on, the regulatory parts of that, and how to speak with the public if any detects are found, and what they mean. So we've been getting some training on that. And then on the COVID front, we have gotten word this afternoon that the vaccine that has been some allocated to, I think it's Columbia Memorial Hospital that's received the vaccine. We're not really in direct control of the COVID vaccine only because we don't meet the storage requirements for it. We don't have that deep freezer capacity, and the state has chosen to, ship it out to the hospitals to manage it out from there. So a couple of our nurses had gone up to the hospital this afternoon to assist their staff in vaccinating their own, frontline personnel in the hospital. And then we got word this afternoon that with the next phases of this, now we may be having a pod, which is a point of distribution for the countermeasure, in this case, the vaccine, that might occur on Saturday at the college. But I'm hearing now we're only going to be given 50 doses to start, but they're going to be looking at the EMS personnel. And I think the health department, the staff that's vaccinating people and testing people for COVID are going to be vaccinated. So as we get this, we're, following the state guidance as to who's in line for it and when. So that's moving forward. And we did have an increase, since the Thanksgiving gatherings and things. We've just since Friday, the county's seen 115 more cases over the holiday weekend. So the nurses are quite overwhelmed with it, but we just keep moving forward and taking it as it comes.
Mm. All right. Thanks so much.
Tara, that is just an amazingly sad report, I have to say. Obviously not your fault, but I mean,
I know.
you are delivering really sad news about what's happening in Columbia County, and I'm not sure everybody quite gets that. Somehow,
Yeah,
countywide, it doesn't seem to be sinking in that this is a real serious issue.
it's true. It's hard unless you're in it. You're in that every day, and you're seeing those reports and seeing that firsthand. It's hard to believe, sometimes that this is really, really happening. Sometimes it's hard for me to
Shocking.
believe it's really happening. But yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll have better news soon. We have a vaccine. That's good
Yeah.
news.
Hopefully, we've got 2 now, so hopefully you're right that we get
Right.
good news sooner than later. But
Yes.
to be honest with you, if people don't keep being very serious about wearing masks, and I have to say it's been a long time since I've seen someone without a mask.
Yeah.
I think if we don't take it seriously, it'll be this time next year before we're meeting in person.
Yeah, that's the thing with it, and it's becoming somewhat more normalized now. At first, it was awkward for people, and it's still something that you might forget and walk to the store and go, "Oops, I forgot," but because it's just not a natural thing. But it's becoming more normal to see people wearing them, which at first that was part of the problem. People didn't want to, it was almost more vanity
Yeah.
than protection. But so hopefully, things will improve this year coming, but we just, I don't know.
All right. Thanks so much, Tara.
Sure.
So we had some item here for member comments and upcoming events that anybody might want to pop in here about. Okay, Colleen posted a note in the comments, which you each can see, that she found some interesting Columbia paper article about the Hecate energy project in Copake, that Copake has retained the right to collect taxes on the solar installation, which I think that was always a matter of discussion between them and the developer. And of course, the developer has changed has narrowed down the scope of the project. The amount of acreage that they had originally thought to be using is now quite a bit less than that, which many people had expected based on their ongoing survey of the property to see what would be optimum for that much space and the slope of the land and so forth. So that'll continue to be discussed. Let's see. I have two other things on here. Website review about, I think the nature of our website presence. Was there anything to report on that?
I don't know
Okay.
who put that on there.
Nor I. Well, I think there was some concern about whether it was up to date enough, and whether, I think it was that somebody tried to look at it and they couldn't find it. So I was able to see it today, so I guess that's been addressed. So if anybody would like to update their own, there's a section which has biographical sketches of each of us, kind of a professional background section. So if you think you'd like to add to that or change it or do anything with it, please let Maureen know.
Well, a lot of times it'll go through me, and I'll go to Patrice. That's what we've been doing
Bruce,
in the
then,
past.
pardon me.
So that's what we've done in the past. I mean, if Maureen wants to do it, I don't mind.
No. It couldn't hurt to go through you, Bruce, if you're already doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done it in quite a while, but if anyone has updates, I can get them to Patrice probably after the new year.
Sure, I'm sure we can get along with that. And the other item here is land use and the future, and I'm not sure what Ed wanted to deal with in this section. Anybody have a ownership of that? Okay. Well, if there's no other business to be conducted tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. David and anybody else?
So moved.
All right, there we go.
I'll second.
Okay, that's very entertaining. Any objections? All right. There being no objections to adjourning, that's what we'll do. Thank you all for
Thank you.
attending.
Happy New
Michael.
Year.
And Happy New Year and holidays to everybody, and stay safe and warm and all the good stuff.
Thank you,
Stay
Michael.
safe and sane.
That's
Happy New Year.
yes. Sane is a good thing to be.
Yes,
Right.
indeed. Happy New Year.